Oh, oh, great. Anyway, they had they had a bear in their yard, and it did some damage. So
Oh, really?
the
Oh my
neighbors
God.
gathered. I think the bear's gone now. I guess we're recorded, so okay.
I love your background. Pamela, how do you get,
Oh,
I'm such a non-tech person. How do you
well,
get those?
the drop down next to where you start and stop your video.
Yeah.
Oh,
So if you click there, you can choose your virtual background,
oh,
and then when you go there are some built-in ones. But if you click the little plus sign, you can add any that you want. And if you do a Google search for Zoom background and then any theme you want, you'll find 1,000 of them.
hey, that
Oh,
sounds great.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so like if let's see, I could do this blur thing.
You made a great choice. I love it.
Yeah, for Pride Month, I figured.
Hi,
I love that.
are you recording us? Dennis, are you ignoring us or recording us? I think it's ignore.
Cool.
Yeah, so you got the blur.
I got the blur.
Yeah.
So that comes in handy, like if your house is messy, especially.
Yeah. So you'll notice I always have a background.
Oh, I think that's great. I always try and neaten up whatever's behind me.
Hi, Raquel.
Hi, Irma.
I'm trying to see who's right below you. I noticed Brian had come on. Julianne. Hi, Julianne. Whoops, she's muted.
Yeah, everybody's coming on muted tonight because we're going to kind of control all the side chatter.
Oh, Dennis.
I know.
Dennis.
Irma. This is. Just want you guys to all know that this is Irma's fault and not mine. Okay. If Irma would behave herself, we wouldn't have any problems. But we just can't control her.
But Dennis, I keep telling Irma, keep speaking out. She is an inspiration to us, all women.
Yeah, I think Irma and I are really sister and brother because she says the stuff that I would say.
Way to go, Irma.
I've been trying to check that out, but you see, Dennis, it's really not my fault either. It's Raquel's. She heard it on.
Oh, come on, guys. You're going to get me in trouble, all right? Come on.
Hey, Dennis, I haven't even really met you yet. I can't get in trouble yet, can I?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All you have to do is say something, and next thing I know, I'm popping my mouth off, and
He's really nice, Raquel, but don't tell him.
Yeah, self-control is not always one of my greatest.
Oh, hey, I see Whitney down here. Let us welcome her. Whitney, we love you.
Wow. Everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, Brian.
Hello, everybody. Great to see you all.
I'm missing that voice, Whitney.
Well, it's back. So
welcome, Julianne, as well.
Yes.
Hi, Julianne.
I'm not familiar with Julianne. Give me a little help, Julianne. Tell me about you. Oops.
I know Julianne worships at the Roseville campus, and so it's great to see her on a Zoom call here.
That's neat. Now I'm going to be quiet.
And here's our presider for tonight, Bryce Johnson. And
Hi, Bryce. Welcome.
he and I are next door to each other, and Dennis is down the hallway. We thought we could coordinate well that way. We'll see, but I think we can do it.
Brian, it is correct that for the conference, I only need numbers for the attendance. Is that correct?
It'll be good to get names, and Dennis is planning to take screenshots so that he'll get those names.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Dennis. I thank you ahead of time.
Oh, I thought he just wanted to take a screenshot so we could see our beautiful faces.
That too.
In honor of Pride Month, I want to invite those who are interested to add your pronouns to your name.
How do we do that?
I believe if you right click on your picture, is that right? Oops, I'm on the wrong one. That's why it's not
Yep,
working.
that's right.
Yeah, if you right click on your picture, you see rename. And you can edit your name as it shows up.
And that actually helps me a lot into keeping the list that Irma's supposed to be keeping.
Oh yeah.
I just want to point that out.
But Dennis, I love you for the help.
Yeah. I can be my services can be bought at a low price.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay. Let's see. Now, how do I do that again?
If you guys could get last names too, please.
I couldn't get my whole last name on as well as to be for Brian and he, him. So I had to make a choice.
Brian, I think we know who you are.
Irma, do you need help or did you get it?
I'm okay now, I think.
Okay, great.
That's there. Is that okay? Are you seeing it? Wait a minute.
Not yet. There it is.
Ta-da! I did it.
Good job.
The answer to do I need help is always yes.
Irma. This is Rachel. This is where I would get myself in trouble. Right here. When somebody lays out a softball like that, you know.
It's okay, Dennis.
I give him the red carpet all the time, and then he uses it.
Oh, you bet.
You need to do that every once in a while.
Okay. It really is good to see everybody. I see Deb and Dawn and whoops, help me here. Steve and Carolyn and Marcia and Dick Barrows.
Oh my God, he's still here.
Hi, Lynn. Good to see you.
Well,
Max. Oh, good. Hi, Amy. Hi.
Hey there, Irma. How are you?
Good.
Hello, Whitney. Good to see you.
It's good to see everybody.
Good to see y'all too. And I'm probably going to stay on mute for a good portion of it because my son, who has 5 teeth coming in all at once, is trying to be put down right now. He's mad about it. So I'll be on mute because
big
from the streaming.
I've been trying.
When do we get to meet him?
I mean, we're doing outdoor services, not this Sunday, but next Sunday at SAP, and he'll be there. So that'll be
Oh,
Oh,
good.
Outdoor. She just said it, their service study.
The guy I don't know. I keep thinking, surely I should don view standard. He presumably joined.
Okay, folks, I am going to mute everybody at this point so that we can get started. So
All right.
That's different.
And I'll start us off with an official welcome. It's been nice to chat a little bit as people have been coming on, and welcome to our church conference of Centennial United Methodist Church. And we are meeting once again on Zoom like we did for a special church conference December 15th. So we've got some experience with it, but it is different than meeting in person. Do I hear an amen to that? Yes. It is different than meeting in person. And I ask you to trust one another throughout this, give each other some grace as we seek to hear every voice, every person who wants to be heard, so we can have a fair conversation and fair voting tonight. I'm reminded of the Black spiritual that we love singing. Lord, I want to be a Christian. Lord, I want to be more loving. Lord, I want to be more holy. Lord, I want to be like Jesus in my heart. And I believe that's the desire of all of our hearts. And so I'm going to give it over to Dennis now to just give us some reminders, a refresher about how to use Zoom for our meeting tonight, so that we can be doing holy, healthy conferencing together. Dennis?
okay, thank you. Good evening, all. Again, welcome. A couple of things that we're going to do tonight, again, to make sure is that we would appreciate that everybody please leave their microphones muted during the course of the meeting. That we will be taking time to have questions and that sort of thing. And basically, the reason for that is sometimes noise in the background can be really distracting during some of the important things that people are talking about. I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. First of all, one of the things we're going to do as we move into question time and that sort of thing is we will be using the raise your hand function, and you can find that if you go a lot along the bottom, and you'll see below the pictures, and you'll see a button that says reactions. If you click on that reactions, there's a raise hand function. Okay, we'll try to keep an eye on what's going on there, and as we get through that, we'll try to call on people as we can. But right now we've got 46 people on the meeting right at the moment, and I'm sure as we go along we'll be adding more. The last thing I wanted to tell you about is we do have a couple of voting things coming up, and I wanted to show you how we're going to go about that. Just real quickly here. Can you, if I do this, where are we? Can you see? Are you now seeing the shared screen?
Yes.
Okay. One of the first things you guys have seen this before. We've done this before. One of the things we ran in, but one of the things we added this time is, come on, you can do it. Oops, let's go back. Give me a second. It's not gonna work with me tonight. Hold on. Try this again. There we go. We did add an abstain button. So should you choose not to vote at all, you can use that. You can use that button. Again, to abstain means to formally decline to vote either for or against a proposal or motion. The other thing I want to bring your attention to is we found out last time, when you have 2 questions, you have to answer 2 questions. Okay, so for those of you who only have one pertinent, are you seeing it looks like it's stopped here. Give me a second. Okay, can you see it now?
There we go. Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. If there's only one person who is voting tonight, please, after you've voted, please click on the no voter 2. Okay, or let the other person vote at that point. Okay, so those are really the 2 big things. Those are what fouled us up last year, or last time I should say. And in the event that we have other amendments that go along or that sort of thing, we'll add this stuff in. It will take a couple of minutes. Please bear with me. It's just the way it's going to have to go, but we'll get it going. So with that, Brian.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Dennis is our Director of Operations, so we thank him for handling the technical pieces of our meeting tonight. And so I want to reintroduce to you, or introduce to you for the first time, Bryce Johnson, who will be presiding over our church conference this evening. Bryce is a United Methodist ordained elder. And you might recall in the United Methodist Church, we have ordained deacons and we have ordained elders among those ordained. Pastor Whitney, Pastor Jen, and I, for instance, are ordained elders. Kay is an ordained deacon. In our United Methodist governance, it is the ordained elders who are called upon to lead church conferences. And Bryce was senior pastor at White Bear Lake United Methodist Church until he retired just a couple of years ago. And he's graciously agreed to lead our meeting, facilitate our meeting tonight, like he did for our special church conference on December 15th. And so I'm going to give it over to Bryce Johnson at this time. Bryce?
Good evening. Dennis, I need you to let my video show on the screen. It says you've stopped my video. So
I did. Well, let's find out why.
I'm not being incognito for your meeting tonight. Wait to get on the
Okay,
screen.
there should be something there that'll ask you to start your video.
There we go. I think we're good.
There we go.
Okay, very good. Good
That's
evening,
what happens
everybody.
when you mess with me.
I will not mess with you the rest of the meeting, all right? Good evening, everybody. As Brian said, I'm a retired pastor, served 35 years in the Minnesota Annual Conference, the last 20 being in White Bear Lake. I live in Matamidi with my wife, Jody, and in retirement, I'm a bread baker and bake out of our home, and delighted to have the pandemic winding down and selling at farmers markets again, beginning tomorrow. So look forward to that. As Brian said, I did share your meeting in December, and I want to commend you for the important work that you have been doing and are doing in your respective campuses and communities. And again, glad to be with you for this gathering tonight. I'd like to invite us to begin in a time of prayer. So let us pause in prayer. We open our hearts and minds to the Christ, who is God with us. Though we are separated one from another this night, you are present in each one gathered here, as you are present in all of your creation, O God. So we ask that you help us to listen to one another and help us listen to the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Show us how to be the body of Christ in the communities where we worship and where we live and in your wider world. This we pray in the name of the Christ. Amen. The meeting tonight is called a church conference, which means all official church members and all clergy are members of that conference and are eligible to have voice and vote. So it means it's very much an open meeting for this congregation and its participants. We have two items on the agenda for this evening, and you can see that on the shared screen. Presentation of nominations for election for 2021 through 2022. And then the motion by Centennial for racial justice team, which will be done by Raquel Kanzum. And you'll see the items there for presentation. As we begin, I would just like to remind you of something that I think you as a congregation take seriously and honor in your conversations together. These are guidelines for holy conversations. So please be mindful that first and foremost, everyone is a child of God and everyone's trying to do their best. Try to avoid using us versus them language. Seek to understand what someone is saying before you respond. As you patiently listen and observe the behavior of others, be open to the possibility that God can change the views of any or all parties in our discussion. And remember to accurately reflect the views of others when you are speaking. And remember that people are defined ultimately by their relationship with God, not by their humanity, by their flaws and the things we learn and in their views and actions. But we're all defined by the grace and goodness of God. So we have the agenda before us, and I would like to call upon Brian, who is the chair of your nominations committee, to bring that motion and that report to the body.
Well, as the chairperson of the Committee on Nominations and Leadership Development, I first want to thank the nominations committee members because they have taken on a huge added project prior to working on the main slate of nominees for our July 1st start to the program year. And that is that the nominations committee was charged by the church council with recruiting the members of our strategic planning committee and did so really seeking diversity across our two campuses. And they were doing that side by side as we began our work on the slate of nominees for the new program year. So thank you to the nominations members. And also I want to thank the outgoing chairs of our committees and members of the church council before we proceed with our actual nominations for tonight. These persons are going off of their team leadership positions as of July 1st. Paul Lucas and Jeff Lee as co-chairs of Staff Parish Relations Committee. Steve Torgrimson as finance chair. Louise Gallagher as church treasurer. Bonnie Bougie as lay member to annual conference. Foundation president Max DeLong, and stewardship co-chair Betsy Parker. And so if you would raise your hands and clap for them on mute. We thank you for your service and your love of Christ and Christ's church as we seek God's guidance moving forward toward the vision that the Holy Spirit has for us as Centennial. So now comes our nominations slate. And on behalf of the Committee on Nominations and Leadership Development, I nominate the slate of persons to be shown on screen for election for the program year starting July 1st, 2021. And you'll see the new nominees highlighted in yellow. So, and we'll start from the very top. This first page primarily has the church council members. And so our nominees for co-chairs of Staff Parish Relations Committee are Alan O'Donnell and Jerry Matchett. Our nominee for treasurer, church treasurer, is Bob Milligan. Our nominee for the vacancy for lay member to annual conference is Amy Swally. She would be serving along with Jen Olschlager, Michael Webster, and David Breen, who would be continuing as lay members of annual conference. And then stewardship co-chair, Wynn Richardson, is being nominated, and he will be serving with Trevor Ball, who continues. And then if we could scroll up to page 2, or down to page 2 actually, I'll note we have 4 new nominees for the inviting ministry team at Roseville. We have different ways of doing inviting ministries at each campus. So this is for Roseville. And the new nominees are Mark and Jody Shaber and Lori and Dave Rash. And then for the visual arts ministry team, if you go down the page, we have Steve Rohde and John Reiki, who are starting new 3-year terms. That's a team that allows, like the Board of Trustees, allows persons to go back on for new 3-year terms. And you'll see occasionally sprinkled through here that the nominations committee still has some work to do. And so if we scroll to page 3, you'll find on the mission committee, Ezekiel Gui is being nominated as member at large of our mission committee. And on these pages, if you don't see one or the other campus notated, these are committees and teams meant to serve both campuses. And the vast majority of our committees and teams do serve both campuses, not just one campus or the other. So Ezekiel is being nominated to be a member at large of the mission committee. And then if you'd scroll down to page 4, we have 3 new nominees for the class of 2023 and 2024, 2 of which have completed their 3-year terms, and now they're going back on for a 3-year term. Dick Barrows and Mike Ash are doing so. And then our new nominee for the class of 2023-2024 of the class or of the Board of Trustees is Paul Jensen from the SAP campus. Then for the Committee on Nominations and Leadership Development, we've got 2 new nominees, Nan Carlson from the Roseville campus, Amy Elholm from the SAP campus. And for the finance ministry team, our new chairperson being nominated is Jeff Cadwell. And for for member at large in general, Tammy Hilton. She actually worships at both campuses. We have Lee Keene as a new pledge recorder. Actually, she was elected at our last church council meeting so that she could start work right away. And then you'll note Wynn Richardson's name highlighted under the finance ministry team as stewardship co-chair in both of those places. And then Dennis, if you would scroll down to page 5 for our Staff Parish Relations Committee, we have 5 new members. Marilyn Armstrong for the class of 2021 and 2022. And she is being nominated to fill the unexpired term of Jeff Lee. And then for the class of 2023, 2024, we have Suzanne Sansilio, Jane Harris, and Amy Hostetler. And for lay member to annual conference, serving on Staff Parish, we have Michael Webster being nominated. And then for the Centennial Foundation Board, we have Pam Beverland, who is going back on, being nominated for her second 3-year term. The foundation is separately incorporated, and they have their own bylaws. And those bylaws say that persons may serve up to 2 3-year terms. So Louise Gallagher is a new nominee for the class of 2023, 2024. So the foundation, according to its bylaws, has the church conference make elections at the main church conference of the year for elections, and even though they're separately incorporated. So I move the nominations of this slate of nominees.
And I would ask, is there a second for that nominee, for the report of the nominating committee?
Second.
Thank you. Second from Derek, I believe, that came from. Thank you. There's an old song, I am the church, you are the church, we are the church together. And it's an impressive list of your membership and the volunteers that really strengthen the life of this congregation. Your 2 campuses, and it depends upon you folks. And as I look at the screen tonight, I see the names of a number of people who are listed here. So thank you for what you do. We want to take a vote on accepting this report. And Dennis, do you want to lead us through the
here we go.
voting for that?
All right. You should see the polling nominations on your screen. I'm going to allow about 3 minutes for this to take place. Okay. Nothing seems on my end seems to be changing at this point. So I think we'll go ahead and publish the actual results here. All right, so there were 49-18, that's 67 yes, 1 no.
All right, so that is a majority, Dennis, that you're telling us.
That's what I would be saying, yes.
Very good. So we
It's
will
one of those I can
accept that.
figure out.
We will accept that as an affirmative vote to accept the Committee on Nominations and Leadership Development report, and to say thank you to all those who have committed themselves to the life of these congregations. So thank you. Let us then move on to our second item. And I'm going to call upon, I believe it's Raquel Kanzim from the Centennial for Racial Justice team to make the motion on our second item.
Thank you, Bryce. So I'm not quite sure how this goes. Dennis, do you have?
I'm just looking for that right now. I will get up there as quick as I can.
Oh, okay, perfect. You know what I was thinking.
Yep.
So I will continue. Before I make a motion, I would like to welcome Dana Newhauser back with us to join us in our discussion tonight. She will be here to help answer any questions, and Dana will leave before our vote on this covenant. Thank you, Dana, for helping us understand the covenant even more.
Raquel, before you go any farther, could I get Sarah, Carenza, and Dana to please unmute so we have all of you available to participate? Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
I, as a voice for the Centennial for Racial Justice team, move that Centennial United Methodist Church adopt the Racial Reconciling Covenant. Is it possible to share my screen now, or share your screen?
I'm working
regarding?
on
it. Okay.
My problem is I don't have a copy of it.
I have a copy available if you
Here,
need.
Can you email it to me real quick?
I sure can.
This is kind of what like on the fly, folks. Sorry about this.
Raquel, I can email him if you want to just start setting the context.
Yeah, I could do that. Thank you. All right. So I believe all of you have read the covenant. Dennis, when he gets it up, he'll show you the first page, and I'll let you kind of reread the first page when it does come up. The second page, I would like to remind people that upon listening to and hearing what you really have been saying and talking within our group, and with great discernment, we changed a few of the wording in the Racial Reconciling Covenant. The revised version was under the heading "We have found to be true," reads the revised version is "Racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society created by some white people and maintained for the benefit of white people." Then also under the heading "We have found to be true," our revised version is "Change takes access to resources, action-oriented education, and commitment to repair past and ongoing harm." In parentheses, reparations. Under the heading "We commit to," doing what we can as a congregation and as individuals to raise awareness, speak up, take action, and repair harm whenever possible. So those are the three areas. And so I thought if you didn't get to, I would like you, if you need to take a moment to read, maybe, Dennis, would you say like 45, 30 seconds? I don't know how long to read it.
Where do you want them to read from, if that's okay?
Just where you're going, kind of, so
Okay.
they have a refresher or reglance at the covenant.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Dennis. I think that's the extent of the document.
Yep.
And Raquel, I just want to come back. We want to get the motion on the floor. And so I just want to make sure that we have the language of the motion. Is that, Dennis, in writing
Yep.
anywhere or?
Just give me 1 second here.
Okay.
And Please do not vote at this point. This is just so you can see it.
All right. I want to try to
Okay, do you want me to do it? I, Rachel Consum, as a voice for the Racial Injustice Team, move that the Centennial United Methodist Church adopt the Racial Reconciling Covenant.
Okay, so the action before us that the Centennial United Methodist Church adopts the Racial Reconciling Covenant. So let me just ask, that is the motion before us now. Is there a second for that motion?
The team is incorrectly named. It's the Racial Justice Team.
Okay, thank you. It's my understanding as well, so I think we just accept it. Correct, that's my understanding as well. So that it adopts the Racial Justice Team Covenant. Is that the right language?
No,
So
it's
the Racial Justice Team
correct.
moves that Centennial United Methodist adopts the Racial Reconciling Covenant. Okay, very good. So rather than Racial Injustice Team, it's the Racial Justice Team. So please be mindful of that as we move toward voting later on.
I'll make the change too. I'll make the change too. So.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Nope.
So that is the motion before us. Did I get a second on that?
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that. Okay. So the motion has been made. It has been seconded. And I understand that folks from the Centennial Racial Justice Team, I think, want to speak on behalf of that. Is that correct?
Well, I wanted to open it up for any discussion if we needed to, and if there were any questions or anything, we do have Dana Newhauser here to also help to answer any questions that anybody has.
Very good. So let us continue then. Are there questions for the Centennial for Racial Justice Team? If so, please raise a hand and we'll try to recognize you.
Okay.
Max DeLong has a hand raised.
All
Okay,
right.
Max, and go ahead and unmute. Okay, Max.
All right. Well, I have a comment, and in regards to the first statement that talks about racism and racial inequality is a specific problem. And I think the way that statement is worded, it comes off as very racist in its own structure. And I think it's appropriate to identify that racism and racial inequality is a specific problem in our society, but to turn around and use a racist label to attribute that problem to a specific group, I think doesn't lead to any progress on terms of racism. I mean, absolutely, we want to avoid disrespecting people on the basis of race. And I don't think a statement that comes forward and lays blame on a particular race accomplishes that. I think, you know, to the outside world, the statement as it's shown is racist on its own. And so I would recommend that that first statement have a period after the word society and modify it in that way.
My question to you then is right back at you, Max, is how is it racist to you? And that's the first question. And I'm trying to understand how that is racist towards you, because it's not a statement to make you feel guilty. It's a statement that is of benefits. I mean, and it's not saying that you created the benefits. You didn't. You were not around when they created these systematic issues. And so what it's just stating is that white people get the benefits that people of color do not, which is different than saying it is your fault that you get the benefits of it is your fault that white people get the benefits that people of color get. That is not what we're trying to state at all. We're just merely stating a fact that in society, in church, in pretty much the world, that white people do get benefits that people of color do not get, and that is no fault personally to your own. It is the way the system is made. So that is how it is, and it's not meant to be a knock on you at all. Any of my team members want to
I would
say
just,
anything else?
Raquel, I guess I would just add, or my question to you, Max, is do you agree with the definition of racism as stated in the social principles in the Book of Discipline? Because that is the definition that we're using for racism. So if sometimes it does come down to semantics, and if there's a difference there, because racism can be defined in different ways, but how we're defining racism is based on the Book of Discipline. So maybe that's where that inconsistency or where that issue is coming up for you.
Well, I mean, I go back to the dictionary and look at the definition of racism there, and I don't think the words that are used here avoid a racist implication.
Yeah, I hear that, because I agree the dictionary does have.
The words take the focus off of what you're trying to accomplish. And you're trying to accomplish avoiding disrespect on the basis of race. And so I think the definition ought to be truncated with a period after the word society.
But then are you saying that the Book of Discipline should be truncated as well?
Yes, I think if the Book of Discipline states it in that way, that's inappropriate too.
Dana, do you have anything to say regarding that, since you are with the racial reconciling movement?
Yeah, I think I recognize the kind of standard dictionary definition doesn't actually allow for the nuance that I think this covenant and the definitions as outlined in the Book of Discipline are trying to capture. And that's a recognition of long-term historic and systemic issues that have led to disparate outcomes over generations. And so I think I appreciate, I think what I heard Max saying was wanting to avoid disrespecting other people and other groups. And I think that that's an important element of this, but I think part of what the work that my read on the work that the team has been doing and the work that the Minnesota Commission on Religion and Race and the General Commission on Religion and Race the cabinet have all been doing is trying to really take what has been codified in our book of discipline as naming the systemic issues of racism, and recognizing the long-term effects of history like that has led to this point, and then trying to undo both the ways that we carry that personally and interpersonally, but also the recognizing and changing the ways that we relate to systems and to institutions, and trying to make up for the difference, because after generations of explicitly racist policies against Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, these are explicit historical policies, practices, and procedures that have created a significant difference in outcomes, that now part of the work of repair that we've heard some about is to kind of rectify the difference. And some of that is recognizing the historic harm and trying to address that. So it's so much more complex than what can be captured in a dictionary definition, right? Like we use a lot of words that are not fully captured in Webster's. No offense to Webster. Webster's great, but the work that we're doing is diving a little bit deeper, and that's the work that that the team and the other parts of the institution are trying to invite more and more people into that work.
No, to me, the argument doesn't really hold water. That if there were parts of society that were racist in the past, that now it's appropriate to to relabel that and call it out when you're trying to eliminate racism itself. Just because it requires a complex definition doesn't necessarily void the necessity of a group like Centennial to carry a definition that reflects all the complexity of the issue.
I hear you, Max.
Let me just interject. Max, you in your initial comments there spoke about this making a recommendation to the team or to this covenant. And I just want to, is that the other option is to make an amendment toward this document? In other words, sort of expediting our conversation about adopting the covenant. What is your preference on that?
As we have discussed in our team, we have decided that we will not be making any amendments, and we would like to stand with the way the covenant is read as is.
So as by putting the motion on the floor, it does become the property of the group. So I hear what you're saying about not wanting amendments.
Oh, gotcha.
And but it would be apropos if someone wants to make an amendment, and then we decide from there if that's an amendment that fits with the covenant or not. And I think also for the team to decide whether you would want a document with any amendments in it, which you're saying you would not. So correct. I just wanted to come back to Max, I guess, and ask if his intent regarding the first line of the Centennial United Methodist Church finds to be true.
Well, I guess I would propose an amendment to restate that first sentence and put a period after the word society.
Okay.
Would you restate that whole sentence then, please?
Yes. Max, do you want to try that, or you want me to?
Well, as You go ahead. And
What you said is, at the very top, says Centennial United Methodist Church finds to be true racism and racial inequity as a specific problem in our society, period. That is what you,
yes,
you read. Okay.
I
So
would
that is the
second that
amendment here.
motion.
Say that again.
I would second that motion.
Okay, thank you for the second from Julianne.
But could you
Discussion-
please read it as it stands so we can hear both of them, please?
Yes,
Somebody-
let me
Thank you.
read that for you. It's the first line. It says racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society, created by some white people and maintained for the benefit of white people, period. And what Max is asked or has made a motion to amend, so it reads racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society, period. Is that clear? I trust. Discussion of that motion.
I'm gonna jump in. This is Pamela. I think that the idea that we're somehow saying that racism and racial inequity is a problem in our society that affects all of us equally, I find that a little bit hard to swallow, and I find it hard to believe that that everybody on this call thinks the same way. There is a great deal of scholarship out there talking about the definition of racism that, as Dana pointed out, couples that prejudice with power and systemic power that is beyond just disrespect. And so, Max, I think when you say that the goal of our team is to reduce or eliminate disrespect, I think the goal of our team is much deeper than that. The goal of our team is to better understand racism in ourselves, in our society, in our church, and in the systems in this country, and look at ways to fight the effects of that racism. So it goes beyond just disrespect. And I think it's important as white people that we don't equate our own discomfort, hurt feelings, or feelings of disrespect with the much deeper impacts to communities of color that deal with incarceration, violence, poverty, and things like that, that go much deeper. So I think it's really important to understand that distinction and not to equate those.
I hear that as a speech against this amendment.
Absolutely.
Definitely, yes. Anyone who would wish to speak on behalf of the motion?
I would speak in behalf of the amendment to the motion to change. I think that clearly a part of this, the issue is individual behavior that is independent, perhaps related to the color of the skin and tradition, but racism is something in your heart. It's something that can be resolved without labeling one race or the other race. I think there is evidence in society at the present time that there is reverse racism, if you want to call it that, based on individual behavior.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah.
This
I have my hand up. What, am I on?
Go ahead.
You must
Okay.
be.
I understand where Max is coming from. When I read that first statement, I take a deep breath back about the fact that white people are being, in a sense, accused. However, as I've continued to read, and specifically a book called White Fragility, I would have never labeled myself a racist, but I am. I'm a racist because I grew up in a very privileged society that I had nothing to do with. I have all the benefits of it. And it's like, it has happened to me as a direct result of ongoing legislation, of ongoing practices, of ongoing many, many activities. And I have found myself to be a person that, while I am a racist, I don't discriminate. And there's a lot of different language we can throw about. But this came about in our nation as a direct result of founding fathers and votes and white people in power and not allowing other voices of dissent to be able to make any changes. And therefore, even though it makes me take my breath away that when we say white people did it, I believe it's a very accurate statement that we need to come to terms with.
Thank you, Jack. Any other voices on this?
Peggy's been having her hand up.
Thank you. I'd like to just comment from a very personal perspective. 2 different points. I'll try to be brief. One is I have a lot of personal experience of recognizing where I've done something harmful to another individual or someone has harmed me. There's been that within my family and out in larger spaces, probably going forward generations, back generations. And spiritually, I find it very healing to accept responsibility and work at making amends. I'm part of a 12-step group. That's how we live our lives. And I have rather than feeling hurt or up against a wall, I have experienced so much freedom in recognizing my failings, recognizing others' failings, and really coming to a point of letting go, not just forgiveness like it's something I have to do, but have a real attitude of acceptance and love towards others. So it's been important for me on both sides. And then secondly, I know specific ways that I have benefited from the fact that my dad was able to buy that first little house after after the war with the GI Bill, after struggling, living in a Quonset hut at the U after the war and living in a little apartment on the west side and buying that first little house and then buying a nicer house at a point when he had teenagers. And recently I realized, because I was interested, I found out that that home most likely had a racial covenant on its lease that indicated that it could not be sold to others. And that's the case all around the Twin Cities. And I've lived in a redlined neighborhood and in a neighborhood that wasn't redlined, and seen the effect on how the houses, the value of the houses, and how they could go. I could keep going and I won't. But for me, it is not, I don't take it as blame. More than anything, it's a sigh of relief for me to just acknowledge accountability and to want to act on that accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy.
Bryce?
Steve, I believe I saw Steve's hand up. I just wanted to, yeah, Steve Torgrimson.
I support Max's amendment for the simple reason of Jack's reaction when he read it. I just see the calling out with the expression of whites as being just unnecessary. It's almost like we're attacking the racial group that we're trying to influence, and it just seems counterproductive. And so I wholly support Max's amendment because I think this document is really well written, except for that one statement. I mean, why would you alienate the group you're trying to influence. Okay.
Bryce?
Raquel, yeah, Raquel, is it? Yeah, I think that's you want to speak, yes.
Yes, I do. I hear what Max is saying. I hear what Steve is saying, and I even hear what Jim is saying. And I understand, Jim, that you see there's racism even within people of color. And actually, I am one of those people who have my own prejudice, and that's what we call it, is prejudice, because it's different. Racism has benefits. I have prejudice against people who are darker skinned than I do sometimes, or other people who are from a different country at other times because they don't believe in what I believe. I know that, and I can admit that, and I'm not proud of that. And I was raised white, and I know how white people think because I do the same white thinking, and it's not calling out and blaming, and it's not alienating. The reason racism is because white people have benefits that I don't have, no matter how much racism I could have for another person of color, to another person of anything. I may have those racism, or what you call racist ideas. I don't have the benefits that you have. I don't have the benefit of getting pulled over and feeling safe. I don't have a benefit of going into Stillwater antiquity shop without feeling being dragged. I don't have the benefit for when I talk, people don't listen like I see on this call. They totally ignore me because I am talking and I'm a person of color, as I see right now. The other thing I like to ask, unless you have been in another country where you are the minority, no one will understand what it feels like being a minority. That's one big thing. Our church is white. I'm sorry, WHITE. And I love all of you, actually. You have supported me. You have been there for me. But it's not the same. It's not the same for me when I walk into our loving church as it is for you. That is what white benefit is being able to walk in and not be looked at differently, not be judged at the moment, and not be ignored. That is white benefit. And that is why it is very important to hold that white benefit. It is not saying that you created the problem, you didn't. It's saying that you hold the benefits that I do not have, that many of our members do not have because they are people of color. That's my end.
Bryce, Deb Dietzman has had her hand up for quite a bit. We've got two others as well.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, I guess I'll weigh in against the change for the reason that the language is very powerful. And that last phrase that phrases that Max is suggesting we drop, I think are important because for me, it connects it to Centennial as this congregation, which is, as Rachel has pointed out, is predominantly white. If we stop and say just society, it's very easy to, oh, that's out there. But for me, that the end of that first phrase really brings it home to it's in this place and we need to address it here. I guess I don't read the blame into it that I hear others seeing, but that's just my my take. It's a description of where we are and the tasks that we have ahead of us.
Thank you, Deb. There are other hands up, are there, Dennis?
Yes, also, there's a few here. Sarah, did you have something you wanted to add?
I did, but I'm gonna hold off because it looks like.
Okay, all right, then probably Tammy or Carenza. Tammy, why don't you go ahead first?
Okay. Jack's reaction is the reason that I do not support the amendment. He talked about being taken aback when he read that. Many of us have not had any experiences of realizing our white privilege, and we really need to. So I think we need to have that experience of reading that and going, what? And then studying further, and that's part of the journey our church needs to go on. We need to have that experience, and then hopefully that will encourage us to study and find out more.
Thank you. Any other voices here?
Carenza, do you want to go ahead?
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. I also just wanted to say that our team has spent so many hours talking about this exact line in this covenant, and we've listened to feedback and suggestions about this, and our conversations just keep coming back to our belief that it's a really important piece to have in the covenant. And I guess what I really am just trying to communicate is many people and many voices have had many hours of discussion around this phrase, and our team keeps every time coming to consensus that we want to keep it in there. And so I guess just from that perspective, that the racial justice team, which is a group of our congregation members who have dedicated so many hours this year to racial justice, have spent a lot of time really, really praying over this and thinking about this phrase. We've considered the pros and the cons and how it might be read by some people. And I just want you to know that. That's all. And I am also, I'm not in favor of this amendment.
Okay. Are there other hands there, Dennis?
Yes, there are. Nan and Keith, you want to weigh in here?
Thank you. I both understand the nexus of the original language and the discomfort it causes a number of people. And the proponents of this have said again and again, it's not meant to blame any one individual or individuals for racism, but it is meant to acknowledge that the benefit of the dominant racism that exists within our society does accrue to white people, which is absolutely true. So I'm going to suggest a substitute motion that the first sentence would read, has proposed by Max and seconded by, so it would read, racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society, period. The dominant form of racism in our society benefits white people. So it acknowledges the discomfort of the phrase that says created by some white people by eliminating that, but it still acknowledges the fact that the dominant form of racism within our society is for the benefit of whites, which I think everybody could agree. And I think acknowledges most of what was contained in the original language.
All right, we have a substitute motion being offered. Do we have a second on that? I see Tammy raising her hand to second that. All right. Any speeches to that?
I would again like to hear each of these alternative statements read side by side, please.
Let me read what I have written down, and please, if I did not capture this, let me know. Should I start with the original statement first? Or does everybody know the original statement? Okay, I'll read them all then. Racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society created by some white people and maintained for the benefit of white people. The amendment read, racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society, period. Now, the substitute amendment we are considering reads like this. Racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society, period. The dominant form of racism in our society benefits white people, period. And that's the substitute amendment that is before us right now. Anyone wish to speak for or against the substitute motion?
Yeah, can we, before we do that, Bryce, can you shoot that past me? Just the substitute portion of it.
The dominant form of racism in our society benefits white people.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah.
All right, we got Constance wants to speak, and Bill both are wanting to speak, so.
I was
Yes.
going to speak to
Yes,
this.
Connie, or Constance, excuse me. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to speak to this before this substitute amendment. So it's interesting how what I was going to say flows into this substitute. I was going to say I would have written that part of the statement differently if I just did the writing, partly for style reasons. I agree with the truth of it. And I think Keith's statement is very acceptable to me, because I think if any of us look at history, clearly the privilege and power in American politics, business, and society is predominantly in the hands of white people. It is. It has been for a very long time. And I think it's a fact of history, and it's a fact of something that is unfair to people, many people, and that's what we're trying to correct. So I think there are a number of ways this could be stated. Any way that it states very clearly that it's white people who benefit from in the privilege and power would probably be acceptable to me. Unlike Peggy, I grew up kind of on the other side of the tracks, but in the good section of town. And I had the benefit of being white, of going through good schools and sort of hiding my socioeconomic class. And at the same time, you could go 4 blocks and we were in the black section. And I remember kind of being puzzled. It was so close, but it was very far away. And it was very clear that there was a redlining problem. And a bunch of high school friends have been talking the last year about once a month. We've been talking about exactly this. There's some black people, some white people. What was our experience 50 years ago? And how are things today? And talking about our personal experiences, my black friends' personal experiences of the redlining. Because I remember noticing how my house wasn't great. It was a small 1920s stucco bungalow, but the houses in that black area were pretty crummy. And that's a systemic problem. I can't fix it all. Centennial can't fix it all, but we can do something to rectify some of the great inequities in power and privilege. So.
Thank you, Constance. There was someone else.
Yeah, it was Bill.
Bill?
Yeah, I was going to speak out against the First Amendment. And so I'm trying to process the revision to that amendment. I think I would support the revision language if I could hear that, a statement, from the people on the committee, if they would accept that after all their hard work and discussion. I believe the language of white needs to be in there. It's not only our church, but individually, we need to be set back on our heels as people considered white. I don't really accept the idea that races exist to begin with. However, socially, we have created these categories for ourselves, and they're extremely real, and they affect people's lives. And as a teacher, in very diverse situations, I witness this all the time, and it's real subtle, real passive. It happens within me, and I'm trying to be conscious of it. You catch yourself. So I imagine a student of color in my class or in my school, for example, where every single day, every single period, they're white teachers, which predominantly are the teachers that are teaching them. Things are becoming more diverse because we're aware of the changes that need to be made. Every period of every day of every grade they're in, there's one little thing that happens in that period that sets people apart. And it seems to be based on ethnicity or the color of your skin or the language you speak or your history or your ethnicity, whatever we want to call it. But I think the dominant culture that is in a superior advantage position, we should label white. It does not exactly fit any of our good feelings that we should be labeling things white and black. It's more complicated than that, but that's what we're facing. And I think if we were to use or remove the word white, I think that would be a big problem, and that would not address these issues individually for us and for our church. And otherwise we would push this out to some other churches out there. It's their problem. It's not my problem. It's not my problem personally. And I do appreciate the comments from the 12-step program. We have to identify our issues. And it is my issue. And I need to change. I don't think I've used the N word towards somebody ever. And yet it's my responsibility to change, to speak, to acknowledge the situation, and to be focused on trying to make things better. And I think the word reparations are appropriate. We're talking about resources. We're talking about wealth. We're talking about money. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about access to maybe healthcare or other functions or benefits of society. Redlining was mentioned. I believe these things all exist, and they will continue to exist unless we are set back on our heels by this word. I don't necessarily walk around considering myself white. My grandma told me I was Finnish.
Go.
So
She wants me to say something.
But that's I think that word needs to be in there. I guess I would accept the second amendment, but I would also accept the initial wording. But I would, if we go with the second version, I would like to hear from the committee members to see if that would be acceptable to them with all their hard work. Thank you for listening.
Yes, I would like to move us in that direction towards the substitute amendment. Steve, let me get your voice here, and then I want to move.
Derek has his hand up as well, though.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear from Derek. Derek has his hand up.
Yes.
So-
We haven't heard from Derek yet?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you.
Wow.
Other
Now let me take the video off, but I just want you all to see me. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here. Number one, this is a difficult subject. These are tough times. I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank Centennial United Methodist Church. I'm on this team and I stand with this team. I'll go down with them fighting every day. But one thing I want to share is the work and why we're here. We're here for the work. And I would just like to pose this question to everyone. For those that are in favor of the amendment, if the amendment is not changed, will that stop you from doing the work? And for my team, if the amendment is changed, will that stop us from doing the work? And I know the importance of the wording. I was there. In case you didn't know, I'm Black, and I've got more experience about racism than anybody here. All right, but seriously, let's go back to this. I want to remind us, Christ-like. Why are we here? We're here to do the work, and I look at this as countries fighting and people fighting. And, we Russia and America and Israel and Jews. Okay. Who are we at the end of the day? Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Irma's got a raised hand there.
This will be very short. Part of it is technical. I did not get the name of the person who seconded the second amendment. Could I please get that name?
That I identified as, I believe, as Tammy Nara.
Tammy, okay, thank you. And then I would just like to briefly say, I agree with what Bill just commented on. I cannot accept the First Amendment, but I can accept the original statement or the second one, either way. But I just wanted to put in that word. I do think the team worked hard on the wording, and I have no problem with the original motion.
All right, thank you, Irma. Steve, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just something quick. It's a point of order. I believe that we have a seconded amendment on the table that Max needs to either take a friendly amendment, accept that friendly amendment, and if he doesn't, we need to vote on on Max's amendment first. And if it fails, then someone can propose a second amendment that Keith did, and we can vote on it. But I'm not an expert on Robert's Rules of Order, but once you have an amendment and a second, and it's in discussion, that has to be resolved.
Amy Hostetler is a Robert's Rules of Order person, and she is on the call if you want to unmute her.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
I gotta find her first. Give me a second. I'm looking through a lot of people here. There she is. There you go, Amy.
Thank you. I will look into this and get back to you.
All right, I appreciate your that point, Steve. We will let Amy research that briefly. I want to come back to Bill's question, because I think we're going to get to this at some point, however these amendments go, which is back to the team, the racial justice team, and the serious and hard work you did crafting the language. And I heard Raquel say, we don't want this amended. I guess I'm bringing that question to you. Is that steadfast? Is that what your decision is on this?
I am not going to state that we're steadfast on from what I've been going through with my co-leaders and from what I'm seeing from my team. We are not steadfast on the second, the first one. Are we steadfast on making an amendment? It depends on the amendment, truthfully. The first one would be definite no.
Okay.
The second one, that's up for my team.
Okay.
So are we up for amendment? I would say possibly.
Okay.
Sarah and Corenza, could you help chime in and any other statement?
Yeah, I guess I agree, Raquel. I think it's just a matter of following our hearts as individuals of the team with regard to the second amendment. The first amendment, we just have discussed round and round and round, and I feel comfortable saying that the team would, all of us, would say no. It's a non-starter, but yes, I think there is some, there's certain flexibility, and we have to follow our hearts as individuals too.
Okay, well, I appreciate just some conversation on that. Amy, do you have any guidance for us?
Yes, so there are two options. From my understanding, right now we have an amendment to an amendment. If the first amendment proposer wants to accept a friendly change to their motion to amend, then it could be a friendly amendment, and then those could go together to just be one thing. But if that's not, if that doesn't happen, there can be an amendment to an amendment, which is, as I understand it, where we are right now.
All right, so let's begin with, bring it back to Max, whether you would accept Keith's wording, adding a sentence, the dominant form of racism in our society benefits white people, if you would accept that as a friendly amendment.
I could accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, so then, Amy, correct, we can take that as the amendment.
That is correct.
All right. So are you ready to vote on
Hold
this
on.
amendment?
Give me 1 second, please, because I need to
I
make
think
sure.
there's a few more hands raised as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank
give me
you.
1 second here.
We,
Okay, so if I can, please, the dominant form of racism benefits white people. Is that what we were amending
The
that?
dominant form of racism in our society benefits white people.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah, did you, or are there other voices who want to speak?
yes, Dick Barrows, your hand is raised.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would be in favor of Keith's amendment, the amended version now that Max has accepted it. Because I like Derek, I think it's all about the work. It's about moving forward as a united church to be against and try to fight something that all of us know is wrong. It's contrary to the teachings of Jesus, and we need to be moving. And it's about the work. And I see this amendment as something that will bring all of us together to do the work. So I would support the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other voices that still wish to speak?
I'm sorry, I keep asking to have the two read. I've got a short memory.
That's good. We'll keep it clear. Dennis, are you still working on?
I've got this. Yeah, I've got both of them. Give me a second. Give me a second. One second here.
I'll read them as he finishes that up.
No, I'm there. I'm with you there. I can read it for you.
Okay, please.
Okay. First Amendment says change the current line from racism and racial inequality is a specific problem in our society created by some white people and maintained for the benefit of white people, to read racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society. That's the first one. The second one is change current line from racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society created by some white people and maintained for the benefit of white people, to read the dominant form of racism in our society benefits white people. That's what I've had read.
What's that?
Nothing.
That's accurate. I'm just wondering if it's any way to put that on the screen for us.
No, I think, Dennis, I'm not quite sure what you read, but I thought we were taking the sentence as it was, stopping at society. Wait a second. No. Racism and racial inequity is a specific problem in our society, period. New sentence. The dominant form of racism in our society. Whoops.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll
Dominant
take out the
form of racism in our society benefits white people. So it was two sentences that was proposed as the amendment.
Dennis, would it help if I emailed it to you?
I have a limited number of characters I can work with here, so no, it's not going to help me.
Okay,
at this point.
got it.
I will.
You're almost there.
Just let me work on it, please.
Yeah, he has to think. Yeah.
There's only one amendment, Dennis.
Okay, just let me work on it, please.
Dennis, I'll come down the hall and I'll just help you with that.
All right, it's time to stand up and stretch and take a few deep breaths, and don't go anywhere because we're going to get this vote done and all that kind of stuff. But
Lorenza, did you want to speak before? I see your hands up.
Oh, sure. I just wanted to just point out one thing that, I mean, my preference is still the original text, but I would be in favor of this amendment. But the one thing I just wanted to point out is that I hope we don't lose sight of the idea that racism right now is being maintained for the benefit of white people. And I think that maintained word was important. And the idea there being that we have to figure out how to stop maintaining that. So I just wanted to say that I'm not saying I'm opposed to the amendment, but that language I think was valuable.
Thank you.
Anyone want to sing a song?
Yeah, what do you got?
Dang it, why did you leave me on unmute there, Dennis? This was not a good idea.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna sing. You probably all thank me for not singing right now, but I would just while we're in this in between time, take a moment to I just want to lift up that I want to recognize Raquel and Derek for speaking to this group from their own experience as some of the people of color in the Centennial's community, and to acknowledge that takes, it is a vulnerability that is stressful for people of color to be able to speak so clearly to a group of predominantly white folks. And And I just want to just put a little pin in that and recognize that for the investment that they're making into Centennial, that I see it as an investment they're making into the community. That's my point of personal privilege.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for highlighting the importance of their voices for this congregation.
Jerry, I noticed your hand is raised.
Yeah.
Somebody has a raised hand here. I'm not seeing it, but.
Did someone say that Jerry Matchett has a raised hand?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Please, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you. I guess everything's pretty much been said. And I've been on the team for several months, and I guess I understand the work we've done. But I just want to point out a couple things. And I guess I need to be honest, because mainly this is my own personal experience, much like Dana was saying, that this is from my perspective. And I can only speak to my perspective, much like you can all only speak from your perspective. And everybody's talked about their growing up and their neighborhoods and so forth. Every one of us have that story. But we all have been affected by systemic racism, good, bad, or indifferent, but it is a part of who and what this country is. That's something we cannot deny and something we cannot hide from. It's just the fact of life. And what's really, and you may not like me to say this or like hearing this, but in essence, the fact that you want to, we changed this from it was created by white people. And I can talk about the documentation of where this is created, racism was created. It was, and we won't go into the history lesson, but there's several along the way, and maintained. And we changed that to some. It's like you don't equate. I don't feel like if I see a Black person that's done something and you see that on the, I don't equate myself to them. There are a lot of bad people of all colors, shapes, and sizes. So to me, what's happening and what I'm feeling is that you're giving me a little bit of systemic racism from the standpoint of I don't want to hear my name. I don't want to hear white, because that's uncomfortable. And that's where we start to say, well, man, and mainly we're changing this so you have a better comfort level. And you can call it what you want. And like I said, I'm going to be very candid. You can call it what you want. It's like, well, we don't want to alienate people and so forth. But this is the crux. This is the very essence of the work that we're talking about. And we all have a lot to learn. We are not the experts here. We're all on this journey together, but this is where we need to start. And it's kind of like the 12-step program they're talking about. You stand up and say, I am this. This is who I am. And that's what this is. This is that calling out the fact of this is the fact of life where we start. Now, we're all going to start a different place on the continuum as far as where we're working and what level, as Jack would say, of racism we have. We're all going to have a different spot. If we can equate it back to the fact that, that people talk about Jesus and the fact that there's the white Jesus that a lot of people have on their mantle, the picture of the white Jesus, and we know Jesus was Middle Eastern and he was of dark skin. And in fact, a lot of folks don't even want to acknowledge the fact that he was a Jew. So those are the kind of things that get conscripted and changed because some, and this was the key word that we changed in that first one, because some white people created this aura, this way of thinking to kind of help them stay in power. And you might change that word from created by white people or created by those in power, because that's where it started with the founding of our country. Those in power started this. So I understand your feelings. I understand how people are feeling angst and looking at that and say, gosh, is that me? No, that's not me. Well, no, it isn't. But we all have a little bit of that in us. And it's something that we just have to recognize, and that I'm trying to keep track of. I think Bill said, it's like, yeah, I know it's difficult, but we've got to name it. We've got to name it. And that's really what this is about naming that. So, you know, as far as the second, I guess we just call the current amendment, and I appreciate the change, and I appreciate all you sharing this, because I think this is the kind of discussions we need to have, and we will continue to have, and that we need to do this in the sense that we're all Christians, we're all United Methodists, and we can have these conversations and know that we can work together. We're not going to all agree, but we know that we're starting from a place of love, and we need to make sure we give each of ourselves grace to start to hear those messages. Because I think if I'm starting to hear, and that's why I've listened a lot, to be able to hear what you're saying and try to understand your point of view. And I think I do that pretty well, but in essence, I just want to share my point of view so you can see where I'm starting from and how I think about this. So I'm gonna stop because I've gone too long. But so I would probably be still back on the original amendment, and I probably would say no to anything else.
Thank you, Jerry. Are we ready to take a vote on this amendment? And do we have it in print?
Yes, we
Constance,
do.
I see your hand up.
Yeah, question. If we say yes to the amendment, does that mean that the next step will be putting that amendment against the original? Or that if we accept the second, it means that one?
It means
Over
we're
the
changing the
original.
first, it means we're changing the first line, is what that means.
Right,
To
I realize
read,
that, but if we accept this amendment, does that mean that goes into the proposed covenant? Period.
that is my understanding.
All right.
Aren't we going to be allowed to vote on the original sentence statement?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are voting, in my understanding, we are voting on the amendment that will take the place then of the original statement.
But
And
then if that fails, we can vote on the first. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Well, if that fails, we're not voting on the first. We still have the whole document before us. We need to attend to this amendment because the main motion here is to pass the whole document.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Please, yes.
I just want to paraphrase what I'm hearing. So I think, so if you prefer the original versus the amendment, that's the only thing you're voting on now. It doesn't mean that the covenant is going to fail. It doesn't mean that you're voting for the whole covenant. You're only voting on this one piece, this right now. But then there's going to be another vote.
Yes.
And it will either be the original or the amended, depending on what happens with this first vote.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. That's great. Yeah. Dennis, do we have this in a printed form? All right, you see that? You all see that before you? And I believe we are ready to vote. Am I correct in that? All right, then please do vote. You'll see that we are changing the first line. Well, this is what is being proposed, to change the first line to read as is printed on the screen.
I don't have, oh, there it is. Never mind.
Okay, so please take your vote, and Dennis will, we've got about 3 minutes, he says, and we will then get you the results. All right. Dennis, turn your mic on.
Voting yes is 21. Voting no is 41. Abstaining is 4.
All right, that means the amendment has failed. And so we have the original statement before us as a part of the whole document. Let me ask, are there other questions, other portions to be discussed as we move toward voting on the entire document? I see no hands raised. Will assume then you want to move on to the original motion.
Correct.
All right, somebody, thank you for giving me an amen there. Thank you on that. So I think we are ready to vote on the entire covenant. And Dennis, if you could put that original motion up for us. Which reads, I, Raquel Kanzim, as a voice for the racial justice team, move that Centennial United Methodist Church adopts the racial reconciling covenant. And so any further questions before we take the vote? I think not. Please still let me know if there are, but I think not. Then let us vote on this, the entire document and which is the racial reconciling covenant.
Okay, the polling has ended. And I think I'm just going to say goodnight now. Just leave you all hanging. Okay. The results are 56 yes, 7 no, with 2 abstaining.
So the covenant is approved by this church conference. Let me just say a word of thanks to the Centennial for Racial Justice team for their heartfelt and thoughtful work in preparing this covenant. And also thank you to all of you for being here, for your honesty, for your graciousness with one another. And personally, it's a real privilege to see the body of Christ working together on something which is incredibly challenging. So thank you for your good work and this opportunity personally. At that, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Will someone so move?
So moved.
I do.
Thank you. I don't know who made that. I saw a hand up for Constance, and Derek has got a hand up too. I'll take that as a second, Derek. How's that? And that will, all those who are in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Anybody
Amen.
opposed?
What?
Anybody opposed? I don't think so. I'll take that as for, but I do want to turn it back to Brian, who would maybe send us with a blessing as we conclude.
Folks, we have done holy work together, and we have heard many voices. It is not easy conversation. And I have been so thankful for us being the body of Christ together, which doesn't mean that we're uniform. It means that we celebrate our diversity and we seek our unity in Christ. And thank you for doing this hard work. And that's what it's about, is doing the work now, as Brother D and as Dick shared a little bit ago. And I find myself wanting all the more in these days and weeks and months to hear voices of color, persons of color, to help center them in my thinking, my spirituality, because it stretches the soul and it stretches us to love our neighbor as ourselves, as Jesus called us to do. And so I want to close with a prayer by Howard Thurman, who was one of the mentors of Martin Luther King Jr., great Black preacher and professor. And it is found in our United Methodist hymnal, number 401, if you ever want to look it up. But let us use it as our closing prayer tonight from Howard Thurman. Lord, I want to be more holy in my heart. Here is the citadel of all my desiring, where my hopes are born, and all the deep resolutions of my spirit take wings. In this center, my fears are nourished, and all my hates are nurtured. Here my loves are cherished, and all the deep hungers of my spirit are honored, without quivering and without shock. In my heart, above all else, let love and integrity envelop me until my love is perfected and the last vestige of my desiring is no longer in conflict with thy spirit. Lord, I want to be more holy in my heart. And let everyone say, Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. Thank you, Bryce, for guiding us tonight, and for the team, which has done such hard work.
Dennis, could
Yes,
you read
ma'am.
the numbers again, because what showed on the screen was percentages? Or will you publish it?
The yes 56, no 7, abstain 2.
And that counted the second voters?
Yes.
All right, any other questions for Dennis? We are adjourned, so that passed unanimously, I think.
Irma. Where'd you go? There you are. You keep moving around on my screen. Irma, I'll get this to you sometime tomorrow.
Well, good night.
Bye.
Hey,
Good night.
did you see my?
You did it, Dennis.
Without? Yeah. You saw my last text?
Have a good night.
Good night.
Don't we have church council?
Dennis, do we have a council meeting?
No, we do not.
Oh,
I just work here.
oh, okay.
Ask the person in charge.
Wow. Okay.
We'll send him a gift.
Well, through May, we're doing really well. Financially. Okay.
Yep. All right.
Good
Have a
night.
good one. Hey, Vicky, are you still there? Vicky?
She's muted.
Yeah. So first time for everything.
I'll go.
She's not there.